Bryan, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you, John. Glad to be here.
I was talking with our producer on the drive out here, and after listening to, a good number of your podcasts, watching some of your YouTube videos, I was explaining that I'm thrilled for this conversation. And on a very personal note, thinking about my own children as it relates to trauma that they've had in their life. And I didn't even connect the two, that this show might be personally relevant to me as much as thinking that this show would be really great for our community.
Yeah, fantastic.
So, yeah, man, there's a few things about you I've heard, and I would like to make sure I got this right. So you're the father of 7. You've got 3 grandkids.
That's right.
Your children range between 17 to 31.
Yeah.
What's the range for the grandkids?
3 months, 6 months, and 2.5 years.
Wow. You're a child behavior expert. You're a former adopted and foster child yourself, 30 years working with families. You're the pioneer of loved-based parenting, which I'm excited to get into. And you've written 20 books. Did I get all that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. And so much more, right? Like it's so crazy to try to summarize somebody's life in a couple of bullet points, but we do our best. And then a few things I want to get into today, I've written down in my notes: how to create peace at home, how to heal trauma in our kids, what is love-based parenting, and how a parent's energy affects our children. So I'd like to go today.
Exciting. Let's do it.
Yeah, man. Let me ask you just a very present question, which is, at this stage of your life, with all that you've accomplished for so many years and all the books and all the work that you've done, what is alive in you right now that is really energizing you presently? Like last 30 days, the project you're most excited about, the work you're doing, the problem you're solving, whatever it might be.
I tend to be someone who's always got projects going on.
Sounds like it.
So I have 2 pretty important ones.
Yeah.
One is called Bondify.ai. It's my AI-powered parenting app. It's your parenting coach when you need it at the most. And it's just me on your phone. So you can ask a question any moment. And I really want to use that to support parents to work through crises, to actually avoid crises. Because I believe that I can give a parent, if they can just check in, I can divert most crises that parents go through with their kids. So that's number 1. And number 2, it's called Courage IQ. And it is for men who lead. So not creating leaders, but for men who are already leading. And helping them to go deeper into their own emotional blueprints and unraveling the root of depression, anxiety, and overwhelm, and also that silent not being able to be present for your family, and just taking my 30 years of emotional work and trauma work and helping men be better men, much like you do.
Yeah. I appreciate both of those. I've heard that people have been using AI a lot to help them as parents, kind of journaling through AI, getting parenting advice. And I think that that's been very supportive, having the voice accessible to you or somebody to bounce ideas off, even if that somebody is an AI system. Yeah. So Bondify. That's a really cool thing. Yeah. And it's been programmed in your
30
work.
years. Yeah.
Everything you've figured out in that time. That's awesome. I want to get into something very personal for me, as I just mentioned, that hit me on the way out here. And I think this will tee up our conversation nicely, but it'll be like a relevant, true story for me. So the last couple of days, my 11-year-old has been more anxious than normal. And I think I could point to there being a couple reasons why that is, but to keep this tight and concise and get to your answer to this question in a moment, the setup is this. Last night, it came to a head. It was like the worst that it had been. And I texted with my wife about this. And then she brought up the idea, hey, you've been a little more stressed out at work lately. Your son's a reflector. He's an empath. He picks up on your energy. And as much as I didn't want to hear that, I really think it's true.
Okay.
I think he's feeling my energy.
Okay.
So there's a lot of places that we can take this topic, but the one that I'm particularly interested in, that I think a lot of men will be interested in as well, is to what degree does dad and his energetic state and his anxiousness play a role in our children? I mean, the short answer is probably a lot. And then the natural question after that is, what do I do about it? Or how do we keep ourselves on track? How do we heal that? How do we address it? How do we look in the mirror?
That's excellent. Well, first of all, it's very wise of your wife to reflect that to you.
That's right.
And also very courageous of you to be willing to take ownership of that. Yeah. So that already is moving you down the path. Now, here's the thing. When it comes to our children, it's always relationship. So we have our part and they have their part. So he has his anxiety separate from you. It's just his. Yeah. And that comes from his in utero experience, all his childhood experience. John Bowlby said the first 3 years of your life forms the blueprints for all your future social and emotional relationships. Neuroscience says conception to 5. So whatever he's experienced, what he goes through, he's 11 years of dealing with the world. Okay, so he's got his part. Then you've got your part. And every communication is energy. Every communication. So dependent on how intimately connected the two of you are and how much he stays tuned in to dad and what's going on with dad, he's going to be even more sensitive. You know, some kids have stronger bonds with certain parents, and then they're more susceptible to feeling the vibration of that parent. So whatever that may be looking like, you know, you get to determine that, and you get to say, hey, maybe he is feeding that, and maybe he's not. Maybe he's got his own separate thing going on that has nothing to do with you. But see, a lot of times what we'll do is we'll take our children's behavior and we'll personalize it. We'll be like, well, you know, why is he doing this? This is a reflection of me. This is, and then as soon as you do that, you lose the opportunity to be really present for him because you're making his stuff your stuff, right? Instead of being able to stay present to him in the midst of his stuff. And so you take some deep breaths. You ask, what can you do about it? You take some deep breaths. You have a real honest accounting of what your anxiety is and how it may be showing up in that relationship. And then you go to him and you say, hey, son, Dad's been really stressed lately. And here's some things I've been stressed about. And I've also noticed that you've been a little stressed too. And here's how I know. I say all behavior arises from stress. So as soon as you have a child who is acting out, it's because your child's stressed out. So if they're acting out, it means they're stressed out. If they're stressed out, it means they regress. Because any of us, in times of stress, we regress to earlier emotional ages. So your 11-year-old probably isn't even acting 11 right now. He's probably acting more like a 5-year-old. And I'm saying that because he's probably got a pretty strong foundation, a pretty strong neurologic foundation, an emotional foundation. So he's not going to revert all the way back to an infant. You know, I work with kids and adults who get stressed out and become infants. So you say, I notice you've been having these behaviors. What's been going on? And it's non-judgmental. It's just like, I've been stressed. This is some things that have been going on with me, and I've noticed that you've been a little stressed too. What's going on? And then you just get quiet and listen. And here's the other thing that we don't think about. In between the behavior and the stress is the presence of one or two primary emotions, love or fear. Now, typically when our children become stressed and it's driving their fear, which is driving their behavior, that causes us to become stressed. When we become stressed, then we get scared. And then when we get scared, what we want to do is we want to control, we want to suppress, or we want to change because that's the fear pathway. Yeah. That's what fear does. And see, we've been conditioned to believe that we're doing that because we're good parents. No, you're doing that because you're scared. Because you can slow down, take 3 to 10 deep breaths, get in touch with that fear, calm that stress, and then you move into a loving energy. And it's from that loving energy that you're able to say, hey, what's going on? And then you're seeking to understand. And when you listen, you might be in shock what shows up. And he might be a child. See, some children, we have two different ways in which we respond to stress, react to stress. We become hyper-aroused or become hypo-aroused. So some children, when they're stressed, they act out. Other children, when they're stressed, they act in. Right? So he might be a child who acts in and you ask him what's going on. He's like, nothing. So I call those turtle children.
You're not like most men. You don't just scroll, you study. You don't just parent, you lead. And you don't just read, you implement. And that's why we made this, a no-fluff, battle-tested list of books that sharpen men like you. Picked by our tribe, proven in real life, these books are gonna stretch your mind, fuel your growth, and challenge who you thought you had to be. These aren't just great reads. They're tools to help you grow as a father, husband, and a man. Get the list and all the insights that bring it to life at frontrowdads.com/books.
And a turtle child typically stresses parents out too, because when they shut down, the parent does like we used to do when we were kids. You get a little stick and you try to dig that turtle out of that shell.
Right. Yeah.
And it never works.
Yeah.
So you got to wait. And so I always tell the parent, just slow down, take some deep breaths, relax your body, and wait. Just get quiet and wait. And pretty soon the turtle's going to come out of their shell. And that's how you maintain that presence without getting overwhelmed or without overwhelming him more.
Do you think that's like some of the best parenting advice? Just slow down and breathe?
100%. 100%.
Like, I mean, if there was a lead domino, it's
dude,
like,
that is it. That is the linchpin. Let me tell you, that's the linchpin to relationship. And I you say that lightly, and I say it with all seriousness.
Yeah.
Joseph Ledoux, one of my favorite neuroscientists, wrote a book called The Emotional Brain. He says, in times of stress, our thinking becomes confused and distorted, and our short-term memory is suppressed. Now, that was in the late 1990s. In the 70s, Herbert Benson was a physiologist at Harvard, wrote a book called The Relaxation Response. And he said that as soon as we become stressed, we constrict into survival. When you constrict into survival, then you jump ahead 30 years to what Joseph Ledoux said. You become stressed, your thinking becomes confused and distorted, and your short-term memory shut down. So when you're stressed and you move into survival, you can't think clearly, and then you stop breathing. And when you start holding your breath, so Herbert Benson says we do two things. We start holding our breath, and we start taking really short, ineffective breaths. And then you can't interrupt the cortisol in your brain. So then you're thinking, oh my God, geez. And then you go to the worst. See, I always like to say to people, we go to, I'm going to die. So when you get really stressed, it's, I'm going to die or someone's going to die. And so then we really freak out. When in fact, if you could stop and take 3 to 10 deep breaths and turn your thinking and turn your short-term memory back on, everything changes. Bruce Lee said the most important lesson we can learn in life is how to master the ability to remain calm.
Yeah.
So 100%.
So true. Yeah.
100%.
And applicable to so many spaces or places in life, like surfing. If you get taken down by the wave, the best thing is just remain calm. Or if you're a fighter, rolling jujitsu and you're in a bad spot, just stay calm. Like there's so many places where that applies. So difficult at home.
It's how we enter flow state. It is difficult.
It's so difficult.
I always say it's simple, but it's not easy.
Yeah.
Because we are so wired for stress and fear.
Yeah.
So it's your amygdala that's always looking for a threat.
Do you have to train this in advance? Meaning, is this the moment where you don't rise to the occasion, you fall to the level of your training when it comes to breathing and slowing down? How does a man position himself in advance? Is it just something he says in his mind? Is it an agreement he makes? How do you execute that when you tend to be reactive, meaning you're not present enough to take the breath and slow down?
Excellent question. And there's a couple of things that I would suggest. Number one is awareness and education. When you become aware, most people don't even operate from the awareness that they are breathing and not breathing. So when you're not even aware that you're breathing or not breathing, then you're helpless to whatever shows up in life.
Yeah.
So as soon as you get really conscious about breathing, and I say practice your breathing, not when you're stressed, because then it's too late because you're not thinking clearly and your short-term memory shut down. Practice your breathing when you're calm. And then when you practice it, when you're calm, you start forming a new pathway in your brain because the brain only changes through repetition and emotional impact. So that's the repetition. Now, the emotional impact is when you forget and you stop breathing and you freak out.
Yeah.
And you freak out and you do something that you're not proud of or that you don't like. Well, that's okay. That's how we learn. So as soon as that happens and as soon as all the dust is settled, go look in the mirror, take a deep breath and say, I can do better. Yeah. And then ask yourself, where did that come from? Where did that reaction come from? I call that confront. You're confronting what shows up in your life, the emotional reactivity, the helplessness, the victimhood, which is all programmed inside of us. It's all programmed in our brain from society and from our families. When it shows up, instead of blaming, because that's the victim's path, instead of blaming, take a deep breath and just say without judgment, without shame, where's this coming from?
Yeah.
And then you're on the path.
I've noticed I hold my breath when I look at social media.
Oh, interesting.
It's wild that I catch myself like I'm not breathing. What is going on? Oh. That is not a place where I take deep breaths. That's just been an observation of.
And what a great place to start breathing. Yeah, right?
Yeah. It's wild. I can think back as a 50-year-old man now and looking back over my life. Breath work always just felt like bullshit. Like when somebody was like, just focus on your breath. I'm like, this is the dumbest answer. Yeah. As I get older and older and older, I think it's the most genius answer.
Yeah.
You know, and I've resisted it at times. We're on this topic of what I feel we're on the topic of energy, and I'm so glad we're here. Going back a moment, when you said, ask the question, but do it without judgment, like really remain curious. Mm-hmm. I had a friend recently give me some feedback that we were at a dinner. I asked a question and it triggered this person. And I really felt that I was genuinely curious. Like I wanted to know how they felt.
Sure.
And they felt that my question was judgmental. That I was being like grandiose in my question. And I look back on it, I think, there's certainly a piece that was authentic to me that I really wanted to know the answer. And if I'm being honest with myself, which I'm trying to be more and more in my life, I think there probably is an arrogance to it. There is a one-upping to it of this grandiosity of, I know something you don't know. And I'm asking with the banner of I'm curious, but I'm also kind of like, maybe if you answer my question, you'll come to the enlightened place that I am.
Okay.
And I don't want to do that.
Okay.
I don't want to ask questions that put people on their heels, that come across as arrogant. And I really want to come from a place of non-judgment. But I realize with my kids, if I relate this back to parenting, I had this awareness maybe 3 years ago that when I would ask questions to my son, who at that time would have been like 13, when I ask him questions, just asking questions, he would stop talking because I realized my questions weren't curiosity questions, they were coaching questions. And why do you think your friend said that? Like trying to lead him to a place so that, you know, under the banner of I was just asking questions.
Yeah.
What's your take on that?
I love it. First of all, I love it. And it's so good. And what I want to tell you is that emotional reactivity stems from unfinished business. So however your friend perceived your question, however you showed up with it, his reaction is his business. And he needs to look at that.
Emotional reactivity stems from
unfinished business. The moment you find yourself becoming reactive to someone or something, it has far less to do with that person or that thing and far more to do with you. So that's like one of the first steps to not being a victim. If you ask me something that triggers me, you are doing me a favor. Man, praise God, you just triggered something in me that I need to look at.
Yeah.
Right? So that's number one. Number two, how awesome for you to be aware of something you don't want to do. Okay, so that's like moving yourself down that path again. So then number three is wait until you do it again. Because it's going to happen. And as soon as you do it again, catch it, take a deep breath, and apologize. Take responsibility for it.
Right.
Because here's the thing. Here's what and I say we, entrepreneurs, successful men, here's what we have in common. We do a lot of coaching all day long. We do a lot of confrontation all day long. And then when it comes time for our kids and for our wives, we're in leader mode.
Yes.
We're on the battle. And they're like, not playing this game with you. Right?
For sure.
And that's that energy.
Yeah.
That frequency is too intense. And we need it to be able to elevate in the world, but we don't need it when it comes time
such a good point, man.
For our families.
Yeah.
So the moment he shuts down, it's your responsibility as his father to get more conscious of what's showing up in his body, of what's showing up in his eyes, and what's showing up in his face. And see, that's being present. When you're asking him the question, which is being generated from your own motivation, you're not being present. You're physically present, but emotional presence is paying attention to everything. It's being a container for whatever he shows up with. So when he shuts down, just pay attention to it. Catch yourself. And this is the beautiful and the hard part is you take that deep breath and you say, son, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was coaching you. I didn't mean to do that. Let me back up for a minute. What do I need to hear right now? What I need to hear? What do you want to tell me? What would you like to tell me? And then you just wait. And you just hold that space for him. But the most important part for him and for you is when you apologize, right? Because we didn't get that. Most of us did not get that growing up.
Yeah.
And so it's so hard. And that's such a great teaching experience for us, especially as men. It's a great teaching experience, but it's also a great teaching experience for our children to learn that my big, strong, forceful dad can be kind enough and humble enough and loving enough and safe enough to apologize to me who's little and who's weak and who looks up to him. Wow, that's teaching me how to really be strong.
Yeah. If there was one thing that as a dad your child would know about themselves, about the world, because of who you were, because of how you showed up, because of what you said, they only knew one thing. They had one belief. What do you think that belief is for a child?
Oh man, that I am loved. I am loved. When you are loved, you have a foundation that you can stand on and you can do anything that you want. When you don't have that foundation, when stress sets in, you will collapse. Now, you might be able to rebuild it. You might have enough fortitude to rebuild it and keep rebuilding. And that's what a lot of men who come from trauma do. But to know that you're loved gives you a reservoir that you can draw from forever.
Yeah. What is it that a dad does or says repeatedly, consistently over time that helps a child to feel that way? Because maybe there's a guy out there saying, hey man, I'm there. I say it, but I don't know that my child actually feels it deeply. Maybe they would say, I know you love me, but maybe like deep down inside, there's this question mark.
Well, that ability to convey deep love is such a challenging experience against the backdrop of our families and our societies that we live in. So I would counter that with a question to that dad, that when you look in the mirror and you look yourself in the eye and you ask yourself the question, what do I need to do to convey deep love to my child? Really listen to that, because that could take you into a really dark place, which is good for getting to the light, or it could open up some thoughts for you, some ideas. It's for us dads, it's a matter of affection. It's a matter of attention. It's a matter of us being attuned to our children, paying attention to them when just noticing the little upset.
Yeah.
Right? When their heads down, their shoulders slumped, not coaching, just connecting. Connect before you coach because they want that. That's where the security, and it comes down to co-regulation. It's a neuroscientific term. You co-regulate. Co-regulation is the ability of two people to regulate emotion together. So when a child is stressed, they're not regulating effectively. So now if the parent gets stressed while the child's stressed, no one's co-regulating.
Right.
You're co-dysregulating.
Right.
Right? So when that child's stressed, get yourself regulated and just be present. And stop talking so freaking much.
But wait a minute. I have so much good shit to say.
That's right.
Come on, man.
That's right.
I'm a coach. I'm a speaker. I have so much wisdom. If I don't say it, who's going to?
You got a lifetime to share it.
Last night when Ocean was really dysregulated and he had big anxiety.
I love that name.
And I came to this awareness that I could be creating this. And then it came, by the way, side note, like I started looking at other people in my life and I was like, oh shit, I'm creating it over here. I'm creating it in my work. I'm creating it. Like I could see how I didn't want to admit that because I want to think I'm better than that at this stage of the game. But yet there it was. So I sat on the floor with Ocean and I said, we're going to do an evening routine together, buddy. And so we listened to like a 6-minute meditation on insight timer. We sat in silence for 1 minute. I said a prayer with him and I just felt it. And then I just like rubbed his back, right? Like it just gave him like some nice physical touch, light, like it was just quiet. All the lights were down. It was really like, and I could feel his whole nervous system calm and my whole nervous system calm.
Beautiful.
And so I thought
let me ask you a question. Yeah. Since you're already sitting back in your seat, let's do something.
Okay.
Take your hands and I'm going to go ahead and direct them to your chest.
Okay.
Okay.
Like this?
Yep. Just like that. Take a few deep breaths. And what was that feeling you were feeling with all these different relationships?
I think the feeling, what comes up for me when you just said that, whether I'm going the direction that you're asking or not, is control.
Perfect.
I wanted to control.
Good. That's good. Let's slow down with that. Why did you need to control? Why do you feel like you need to have control in all those relationships?
Because if the outcome isn't a certain way, that life is broken.
Okay. Breathe into that. And how does that feel? What's that feeling? Life is broken.
Like I'm doing it wrong, which is like the deep childhood wound of like, you're not doing it right.
Okay. And how old were you when that started?
Just young, whenever the lights were turning on, 5 to 8-ish.
Okay. Let's call that 7. Let's call that 7. So you breathe into that and you see that 7-year-old and you be curious about his feelings. And when you are ready, and you can do this at any time, grieve his feelings. Grieve for him. The single greatest trauma that exists in this society is unexpressed grief. Grieve those feelings. Let him be felt and let him be heard. And then you can move on until he shows up again. But he wants to control things. He's been doing it. But you need to be able to grieve him because that's the only way he can relax.
How do I know if I'm doing grief right? That's where literally my mind went. I go, I don't know if I'm doing grief correctly. Maybe I'm failing at the grief exercise.
Let me. How would you know if you were holding your son's grief?
How would I know if I was holding my son's grief?
If that was your son having that
Ooh.
experience, how would you hold him in that grief?
I think allowance, acceptance, which that's been coming up a lot lately, by the way, just to make a note on that, this term acceptance, allowance. It's like the people that are playing in the spiritual space in and around me, like that's the word, acceptance. It's letting go. And I feel like this last year, by the way, like I might start crying. This last year, the biggest lesson for me was learning to let go. Like love is the great, like I had a version of love, but the love for myself and even others is in letting go. As a guy who wants to direct things and control things and move things where I want them to be, to feel powerful, to feel important in the world.
Dude, that's so hard.
Yeah.
That's so hard. If you go back to a 7-year-old who learns that he's got to be in control to be safe. And you think of, now you're 50, so we're talking 43 years. Letting go and allowing, it's more than just fucking words.
Yeah.
That is some hard work. That is like some freak out kind of work.
Yeah, it's my least favorite class.
Oh man, let me tell you.
It's my least favorite class. It's my 100%. Least favorite class.
And you gotta honor that.
Yeah.
You gotta honor that it's not just sitting in a class and someone walking you through the allowing and accepting exercise on a piece of paper.
Right.
Whatever you experienced was so much more than that. And it's emotional. That's the key. Most of the things, just like this podcast, for the most part, is cognitive. And so we want to always be talking about cognitive shit. We always want to talk about pain. We always want to talk about trauma. We always want to talk about hurt and wound.
Right.
Well, hurt and wound and trauma and pain are not cognitive. They're emotional. Yeah. And so the real healing, the real release comes in the emotional experiencing of it.
Yeah.
Not just the talking of it. And that's why people stay stuck for decades. Because I just got an email the other day. A mom said, I've been through 20 years of talk therapy. If you've lived long enough and if you've been trying to heal long enough, that's probably almost like an average.
Yeah.
Because pain is not cognitive. It's emotional.
Yeah.
It's in your right hemisphere, it's in your heart, and it's in your gut.
I was at my buddy's event over the summer in Spain. He leads a group. I don't know if I have permission to say what happened in the room outside of the room, so I'm just going to leave it out that I was at an event, and or leave out the specifics. But what happened in the room was that on one side of the room, it was all the men, and on the other side, it was all the women. And they were given an opportunity to express the hurt and the anguish and the grief that the opposite sex had created in their life. Like, so the women were like expressing the deep pain and hurt that the men, the masculine, had caused them, if you will, right? And then the men were able to do the same thing for the women, and they were able to express it. And one of the words that was used in the experience was anguish. And it's not a word that I'd played with a lot in my life. Like, what does deep anguish look and sound like? But I had this moment last year where I was in my car early morning, like 4:30, heading to the gym. And I just was overcome by what I would now describe as deep anguish. And I decided in that moment to not hold it. And I was like, I'm going to just let it all out. Say it's in my car, I'm in the garage, and I'm going to just let it go. And what I noticed happened in that moment was that I made sounds, like crying sounds or groan, whatever sound I was making. I don't think I'd ever made that sound in my life. Like, I've heard myself cry before. You right? Like, I know what crying sounds like when I fall and I hurt myself or whatever. Like, I'd cried many times, but something was different about that deep anguish.
Yeah.
And that felt freeing to me. Felt like I didn't have a regulator on my expression in that moment. It's like, fuck it, I'm just gonna
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to feel it.
That came from a deep place.
Yeah.
So that came from a deep place. And I always tell people that when it comes to real emotional work, there are no words. It's all sound.
That's right.
Because the body only knows sound. The body doesn't know words. And so sound reflects the energy that you're storing in your body. So when you use sound, it'll take you deeper and deeper and deeper. And so if you think about grief on a continuum, and I like to tell people, grief is assigning a value to an experience, and you honor that experience just based on no greater or no less than what was deserved. It just is what it is. And there's some things that you don't even know. There are in utero experiences. We start being able to develop the ability to hear by the time we are 4 weeks after conception.
Wow.
By the second trimester, we're already thinking. By 9 months, you've already lived a lifetime in your mother's womb. Whatever she has experienced, you have experienced, and it never leaves you. It's stored in your brainstem. And it's just waiting to get stirred up at any point in time. And high levels of stress, this is how you know how stressed you are, is how deep you go. So if you're really stressed, you'll go deep back into that brainstem and you'll activate those memories, which were pre-verbal memories that just have energy attached to them. Now that's where you get that deep anguish. That deep anguish. Now you're grieving at that real depth. And there aren't any words. There aren't any words for that.
How do we help our children to release the anguish?
Yeah.
How do we help our children to feel the trauma? Like I'm certain that both of my boys have trauma, right? I could, if you gave me a little time, I could be like, well, then there's this moment. And I'm like, that's going to hurt them. There was like this time.
Yes.
And I could think about moments where, and I have, I don't know that I have shame about it at this point as much as I have like regret or guilt for doing it, which I think is healthy to be like, that's not good. We shouldn't do that again.
Yeah.
But I think I've worked through this shame part. Like I'm a bad person for doing it, but like I'm a human who did it.
Sure.
But back to, so I say that because I want to, again, lead by example in this community, that even as the host of the Front Row Dads group, and I've been in this work deep for 10 years, like I've made mistakes. I have regrets. I would change things if I could go back in time and do them differently. But one of the things that I'm sitting with now is that as I have a 16-year-old and an 11-year-old, and as much as I aimed to have a trauma-free childhood for my boys, I failed at that. And they definitely got some trauma. What do I do now as a dad to support them in feeling those feelings, expressing those sounds, healing the grief? What do I do?
Excellent question, John. And the reality is if you live in this world, you've experienced trauma.
Right.
You made it through COVID, you've experienced trauma. Everyone's experienced trauma. It's what we do with it. And if you can express it and process it and understand it, you can settle it. It gets stored in your body, goes from being a fragmented process to a coherent process, and then you integrate it and you move on in life. Now, the big question is, what do you do? And this is going to be the hard answer. The hard answer to what do you do to help your children heal through trauma is heal through your own.
Yeah.
Get really honest with your own emotional experiences, and it can start with however you showed up in their life and the things that you're not proud of. And you just start taking an honest accounting of it. If you make a list and you say, sons, kids, sit down in the living room, and our dad's going to go down the list, and I'm going to say, I did this, and I'm not proud of it. And I did this, and this is what was going on. And you just start making an honest accounting. And when you get really serious about that, what's going to happen naturally, number one, just having the courage to do it. But what's going to happen naturally is you're going to start slowing down, and you're going to start tapping into some things that you really weren't proud of, that you're really ashamed of. And then that's when the emotion's going to come. And they're going to be sitting there hearing that. And that's where the grief comes. You're just grieving that energy. You're just grieving that energy, and you're opening up the door for them to be able to follow. They can't follow a closed door. You're the leader. You have to lead, and that means we have to lead in all ways. So when you get really emotionally vulnerable and authentic with who you are and how you're showing up and things that have happened, that emotion that naturally comes with that starts moving. And when it starts moving, they start feeling it. And when they start feeling, they're going to cry. They're going to cry. As soon as you start crying, they're going to start crying. And it's not even all about crying. It's just about being emotionally connected and present. I love a good cry. I mean, I love a good boo-hoo. I mean, get into it. And I always tell people in my trainings, I'm like, we've got Kleenexes, but Kleenexes are not for tears. Kleenexes are for snot.
Yeah.
That's the kind of cry I want snotty crying.
Yeah.
So you're going to get into it. You guys probably would get into some snotty crying. And then it's just healing.
Yeah.
And really what it is in its core, in that core experience of that moment, and makes me emotional thinking about it. In the core experience of that moment, it's you as the leader being courageous enough to walk through that fear. And that's scary because that's going against sometimes generations.
Yeah.
Walking through that fear to push all that fear energy out to leave space for love. That's all it's doing. It's leaving space for love. And love is the most powerful healing force that exists. And when we can get out of fear, when we can just get out of fear, love is just right there. It's just waiting for us. And you just got to be willing to have those hard conversations. That's what you can do. It's so simple. It's just not easy, especially when we don't have blueprints for it. My dad was a Vietnam veteran. He worked in a rock quarry for 35 years. His father was an alcoholic who got murdered in a bar. My dad had no blueprints for emotional availability. He had blueprints for hard work.
Yeah.
He didn't have any blueprints for affection. He had blueprints for spanking, for whipping. He didn't have any blueprints for words of affirmation. But he could yell and criticize and condemn. So when I have to be present for my family, my kids, I have to go do the hard work. I have to go face all of that. And people are like, well, when is it enough? Like when you know that you've healed, you never, as long as you're alive, you should be healing and growing.
Yeah.
I've emotionally processed for my slave ancestry. I've been held down intentionally to go into the feeling of the shackles and the fear and the overwhelm. It's in my DNA. It's in my DNA. Research says that stress and trauma can be passed down for 15 generations.
Wow.
What you're dealing with, it may be a byproduct of something pretty painful, but more than anything, it's probably coming from the past generations. You're dealing with energy. You're healing energy. It's like Ed Milet says, in every family, there's the one. Along comes the one. Well, the one has to not just deal with your own childhood bullshit and all that and the getting bullied or whatever. You got to deal with the lineage. The lineage. So you're taking it on.
Yeah. My buddy Garen, who used to go by Garen Jones, changed his last name because of the work that you're talking about right now recently to Ashe, Garen Ashe. I'm really grateful for his work in that space right now. I want to go back to a moment you said, if there's one thing a child needs to know, it's that they're loved. Mm-hmm. And I wonder is then, if you keep reverse engineering to, well, how do I create that? Is the dad's number one job to love himself? Is that the modeling that needs to happen? Is that where the healing has to begin? Is that if a man finds true love from within, that begins the vibrational expression of that to then the child feel that? Is that if there is one thing that a dad can do is find that?
As you're saying that, I'm feeling through that. And what comes to me is that sometimes it's not about us loving ourselves, but allowing God to love us, allowing ourselves to know that we are loved by God, which in process becomes loving ourselves. And so I think some men can be really stuck with the idea of having to love themselves because they don't. They don't. There's some deep, dark stuff in there that just says, I ain't even gonna go there. If they can suspend that and just step into the awareness that they can be loved by God, because God loves us regardless of our flaws, the saint and the sinner, then I believe that that's a good place to start. And then probably find some self-love. And I think that if you're intentional and you're conscious, I think you can show your children love without even sorting all that other stuff out. I think that sorting that other stuff out could be a lifelong journey. But it's your journey. And you got to check yourself, because sometimes what you think is loving your children is actually being fearful for them. So you got to check yourself, because you don't have that foundation that I was saying about earlier. You don't have that foundation. So you got to keep checking yourself, but that's also a process of growth and healing and loving as well.
How did you develop a relationship with God, or how did you come to discover that God loves you?
Oh, grew up in the church, disconnected from the church when I was 16, because the pastor who I kind of idolized had a lot of struggles, which caused a big break in the church. Became an atheist till I was about 23, 24 years old. Even had one of my favorite professors in graduate school, in undergraduate. His name was Bill Zellner. He was a raving atheist, and he taught religion. He had written like three religious books. One of them had been cited at the Supreme Court. I just adored the guy. He was irreverent as hell.
That's cool.
I adored him. Went to college, and I had one particular day where I was just meditating and just intentionally, emotionally suffering. It was hot in Arlington, where I went to graduate school. Summer, July, August, 30 years ago, so it was even hotter than it is now. And I went for a walk in the middle of the afternoon, and I was walking across this bridge. And it's like Jesus just showed up. It's just like so interesting, just showed up and hadn't been there in years. Just showed up. And then that was it. That was it. I knew then. I knew then. And then just kind of have been stumbling and falling and suffering ever since.
Yeah. Is it tough when you know that path is so important? And what I'm taking a guess, by the way, I don't know this for a fact, so tell me I'm wrong, but I'm guessing that maybe your children, when you have, children now that you've watched grow up, I'm imagining they've gone in and out of their relationship to God. Maybe they've wrestled with that as maybe you go in and then you question something, and then you meet a new person that has you on a different path. But have you watched that maybe with your kids, or have they all just like found their relationship to God very early on and stuck with it 1,000%?
No, they're all finding their own path.
Right. How do you process that? Is that just acceptance and letting go?
It's their path.
Yeah.
It's their relationship. And we don't really talk about it. I want to be a reflection and a model.
Yeah.
But that's it. Because I feel like children learn through modeling. Now, if you ask me, we'll have a conversation about it. But otherwise, just know that it's being modeled, and you'll find your path. Because when you find it, then it's going to be certain.
Yeah.
If you find it through me or through what I say,
So go all the way back to this coaching part for a moment, because something I've wrestled with is, how do you balance just telling your kid like it is, like, this is the way the world works, right? You just need to know this. Like, this is a principle, a law of life, versus like, hey man, I don't coach a lot, but right now I'm going to coach you.
Yeah.
Versus I'm just going to let you be on the path. How do you juggle those?
Well,
that's a big question, I realize, because it's also age appropriate, like very different for a 3-year-old than a 10-year-old than a 20-year-old.
I'm just gonna reflect this back to you as someone who's been on the path now for 17 years, longer than you have.
Yeah.
You coach until you realize it don't make a shit. And then eventually you stop coaching.
Yeah.
And you want to coach and you realize it's not going to make a shit and they're going to argue with you and you're going to be just the other day. And I'm the attachment and regulation guy. You know, that's what I teach you. This is what you do for your babies to get oxytocin. And my daughter with my 6-month-old sends me a video of her eating a freaking sandwich. Like she had bread and turkey and lettuce. And I'm like, what are you doing? She doesn't need to be eating a sandwich. Oh, well, the doctors say it's okay. And it's, you know, she doesn't even have freaking teeth. She's got to get constipated.
Right.
That's not okay. Blah, blah. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. A week later, she's constipated. Yeah. And I didn't say it. I said to my wife, I didn't say it. I told you so.
Yeah.
I said, it'll be okay. And that's what you do.
Yeah.
That's the best that I've figured out so far.
So as a guy who spent a lot of time in this regulation space, what still triggers you? Or does it? Do you get triggered?
Oh, man, yeah.
And what is it, man? What's the one that keeps coming up for you that's a lesson?
Oh, gosh. Probably the biggest trigger for me now happens in business, where I have people that in some capacity represent me. Yeah. And don't love on families or don't love on kids at the intensity that I do, because and it's not even fair. It's not even fair. But when something happens with my employees and I don't feel like they're being taken care of the way they should be taken care of, oh my God, it makes me a helpless infant all over again. And I mean, it makes me 2 years old because I want to fight somebody. Like I want to bite.
When it comes to love-based parenting, you know, I imagine we've talked about pieces of it, right? In the natural flow of this conversation. But what else have I not asked you directly about love-based parenting that is part of the formula or part of the awareness or the actions?
It's a great question. Yeah. And I think what's important about love-based parenting is that it's not permissive parenting. See, people equate love with being permissive. Yeah. And love is actually very strong. Love is very firm. I mean, there's a lot of strength that comes from love-based parenting, but the hard work comes back on us. That's the challenge. See, the hard work, when I ask you to do something that you don't do, that you ignore me, and all this stuff gets triggered within me, the hard work is the work I got to do within myself to not smack and yell and curse and whip and all the things that I am programmed to do. That's the hard work. And that will make you, when you challenge that enough, that will make you very strong. And then what you do is you learn that fear is not the path. And you learn how to take deep breaths, and you learn how to slow down, and you learn how to realize in that moment that just because you didn't do what I asked you to do, no one's going to die. No one's going to die. And what happens in this moment can completely define or redefine our relationship for the future. And so Deepak Chopra says, you cannot prevent the future from happening, but you can influence the future from the present. You influence the future from the present. And what we don't realize is we sow so much stress and fear in the present that's why it shows up in the future. When we stop sowing stress and fear into the present, we'll stop seeing it so much in the future. And so love-based parenting is about taking responsibility as a parent. You're my child. And if something is not going right, it's not because you're wrong. It's because I need to slow down and think about how to take this in a different way. That's the hard work. And that doesn't mean I'm being permissive. That might mean, hey, I'm going to sit here with you. I'm going to sit here with you until we figure this thing out. Or I let you, you know what? Dude, I have let you be on that TV or that Nintendo Switch for the last 2 hours. What kind of dad lets his son be on a Nintendo Switch for 2 hours? No wonder you don't want to put that thing down. Your brain is surging with dopamine. You are as high as a kite right now, and I am trying to crash the kite.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to put that thing down either. So first of all, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I should have done better and recognized that 2 hours was too much time. Now, I got to make it better. You're not going to like it. But this is what we got to do. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to love on you until you put it down. Or I'm going to walk away and I'm going to come back. I'm going to give you some time to transition. Tomorrow, I promise I won't let it be 2 hours. Tomorrow, I'll only let it be an hour. But Dad, it's okay. It's okay. Look, I'm putting it in. No, I messed up. I messed up. Because I know when I ask you to do something and you're not completely stressed out, you do it. But when you're stressed, you can't do it. And it's my responsibility to make sure that you don't get to that point of stress. So I'll do better tomorrow. So we'll hang out for a little bit. As soon as you feel like you're ready to put that switch down, we'll go do something else. But tomorrow, it'll be an hour. I'm putting it down now. I understand. Well, can it be? We're not even going to talk about it anymore. It's done. Thank you for putting it down. You want to go hang out? No, I hate you. Jeez, dude, you were flying high as a kite. I just crashed your kite. I don't blame you right now. You're supposed to feel how you feel.
Yeah.
See, we don't like to allow our children to have their feelings either. Attitudes, feelings, and behaviors. Those are the 3 pathways of emotional expression. See, we were trained that you couldn't roll your eyes. You couldn't talk back. You couldn't huff and puff. See, they're pathways of emotional expression. So if your child has an attitude and you shut that attitude down, you're shut down that energy pathway.
Right.
So that goes to feelings. So then they start yelling, screaming, kicking. We couldn't do that when we were kids.
Yeah.
So all our blueprints turn on and say, that's not okay. Don't you yell at me. Don't you raise your voice at me. You don't talk like that to me in my own house. You're shutting down that feeling pathway.
Totally.
So guess where it goes? Behaviors.
See, that's a tough one for me because I see it at times where I'm attempting to help Ocean specifically calm down.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, am I teaching him how to regulate and calm down, or am I telling him he shouldn't feel the feelings he's feeling? So in my process of trying to help him, like, hey, buddy, just breathe. Am I saying what I should be saying is let all that out, man.
Yeah.
Like, let's let it out even bigger to like get it out.
There's 2 things to that.
Yeah.
Number 1 is, are you calming yourself first? Because if you're calming yourself, you're not spending time trying to calm him.
Damn it, Bryan, you keep bringing it back to me.
Well, we're the dads.
Can't we make it about my son here for a minute?
We're the dads, man. We're going to get there. We're going to get there.
Isn't it his responsibility?
We're going to get there. We're teaching responsibility by being responsible.
Yeah, that's right.
Right? So when I'm calm and I'm calming myself down, I'm getting present. I'm getting present. And then whatever he's feeling and however he's feeling and whatever he's doing, because I'm calm and present and because my thinking is not confused and distorted, because my short-term memory's turned on, See, when your thinking's confused and distorted, you're thinking, well, I'm not teaching him responsibility. I'm not teaching him to be a responsible human being. How's he going to be a responsible grown man? How's he going to hold down? The thoughts just run away. And then the short-term memory shut down. But as soon as you can start breathing and really calming yourself down, and then you're looking at him, and he's yelling and he's hollering and he's fussing, then all of a sudden you're going to see he's not 11, he's 2. Mm-hmm. He's not even 11. He's 2. As soon as you see the 2-year-old, now your heart opens. Because then you're like, oh, that's my 2-year-old. That's my 2-year-old baby. That's my 2-year-old baby. Now let me engage with you. Oh, bud, let it out, man. I'm right here. I got you. Let it go. Let it out. As soon as you create that space for him, he won't have as much to let out because he's letting it out because he's fighting to be heard. He's letting it out because he doesn't feel like anyone's listening. He's letting it out because he feels helpless and backed into a corner, and that's his only defense. He's got to get the energy out. So the more it's getting suppressed, the more he's feisty. He's your fighter. The more he's fighting to let it go even more. So when you soften and you realize you don't have nothing to worry about, you got this. You big, strong dad. Everything's all right. Let it out, son. Let me hear it. What you got for me? I can take it. Now guess what you're modeling? Now you're modeling how to be a strong dad.
Right.
Now you're modeling. A strong dad can take it. And then he's learning. So then what he starts learning is that when I'm upset, my dad can hold it. Because I know my dad can hold it, I don't have to get that upset anymore. See, that becomes the new blueprint. When I'm upset, because I know it can be heard, because I know it's felt, because I know someone's there, then I don't have to elevate to that same level anymore.
How do we not create a bad behavior by rewarding it? As an example, my wife has said the same thing to me about I want you to be able to handle my fire. When I go and turn into my teenager, I just want you to be like, that's my teenager and I got you, right? And there's a part of me that feels like having a spine is like, you're not allowed to talk to me that way.
Sure.
For my kids or it's like, if I embrace it and be like, yeah, I got you, just go ahead and do all your thing. And I'm just supposed to be here while you are allowed to have a tantrum, then I'm rewarding that behavior. I worry about that a little bit.
You said supposed to.
Yeah.
That's an important word because when you say I'm just supposed to, that means you're doing something against your will.
Yeah.
That means you're doing something from an energy place that you're not in. So then when you're in that energy place, then you're going to go, that's going to spiral. That's the bad. Now it's bad behavior. I'm rewarding bad. See, it's all this helpless, victimized stuff. See, if I got to be small in order for you to be big. See, now see, if I have all kinds of blueprints around wanting to control things and being okay and fix it and make it okay. And you're asking me not to fix it, not to make it okay. Then you are victimizing me. So you're asking me not to victimize you, but you're going to victimize me because I'm supposed to just be taking it. You see where that energy's at?
Yeah, that's right.
That energy shifts when you stop seeing bad behavior. It's stress and fear. It's pain. It's hurt. It's not even the chronological or the cognitive age. It's the emotional. For years, one of these days, and I have an AI designer, she's doing these animations for me. One she's working on now, she's going to show a hologram of a baby inside of the parent and inside of the child. For years, I've been saying if I could just get a little glasses with a hologram of a baby, and people could put them on, and when you look at someone, you see the baby inside of them.
Yeah.
Everything shifts.
Beautiful.
Everything shifts. So don't worry. Worry as long as you need to. Worry as long as you need to about, am I allowing bad behavior?
Mm-hmm.
Because that worrying of it is exactly where you need to be. Because as soon as you stop worrying about that, you know that you're getting into a supportive place to see your spouse or your child from a completely different light. And that light is going to be the actual message that's getting conveyed. That's a different frequency.
That's right.
So you're elevating your frequency in the presence of theirs.
Yeah, that's right.
So when you do that, that's the healing stuff. We get so caught up in all the other stuff.
Yeah. Choosing versus the should part, right?
Yeah.
That's the power. I'm not at the effect of this person. I'm not shoulding my way into it, but I'm choosing to consciously show up with a spine and know that, hey, sometimes regression to a younger child is part of.
You have a spine.
Yeah.
You're strong. You are strong. You are powerful. You are powerful. Sometimes it's the power that's got to be dialed down. You're never without a spine. You got chosen by your kids to be their dad. You got chosen by your wife to be her husband. Fuck. You can't have any more power than that. So process that. Gain more consciousness of it. Because there is no absence of spine. It's all power. It's all power.
This is my favorite part of the show when you told me how powerful I was.
That's great.
Let me just hit that on repeat and play that back over and over again. I heard you say a term, trauma responsive.
Yeah.
Tell me about this.
So trauma informed has been, I was teaching trauma informed before they were teaching trauma informed. And so over the last 10 years, people have been talking more and more about being trauma informed. And now I'm like, trauma informed is not enough. Trauma informed it's informed. You're informed about trauma. But the moment you get stressed, your stress kicks out your thinking.
Yep.
And now you're reacting. You can't be trauma informed. You have to be trauma responsive. You've got to know how to respond to trauma, not be informed about it. Because police officers are informed about trauma, but they're shooting people all the time. Because they're not responding to it, because they get triggered. Parents, same thing. Parents professionals even, that's probably my best, like the mental health professional there, the therapist who's informed about trauma, but then goes and advocates for consequences and punishments and points and rewards for a traumatized child. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. You got to be trauma responsive. So you got to respond to it and not be informed about it.
And the response is a lot of what we've been talking about during the show.
Self-work, mindfulness, slowing down, breathing.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the shit no one wants to do. That's the hard work.
Yeah.
That's the hard work. But that's where all the power's at.
Yeah. Hey man, will you come speak at one of our events sometime?
Yeah, I'd love to.
That'd be really cool. There's a part of me that I know that we'll have lots of people listening to it this way, but I can see our group doing some of this work with you as well. I think it'd be really fun. 20 books later, if one of our guys is listening to this show and wanting to go deeper into your work, is there a starting place for him? And again, we got dads of all, with kids of all ages and grandfathers that listen to this show. A lot of women listen to this show too, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Where would they start? What's a good book in your library?
So my classic book, it's sold over 1 million copies. It's called From Fear to Love.
Yeah.
So feartolovebook.com.
Yep.
is that's my classic book. It's written for adoptive and foster parents, but all you got to do is write out adoption and foster and put biological or anything else.
Yep.
And then for men specifically, I just came out with a new short course called The Unshakable Man Blueprint. It's free. They can get it. They just go to courage-iq.com and you download it, and it just walks you through a process of basically emotional engagement and going a little bit deeper than where you've been.
Mm-hmm. When it comes to emotional intelligence, which in Front Row Dads, we have 6 pillars, one of which is emotional intelligence. We've been told by members over the last decade that that's the pillar that has the biggest impact in their life, which I think is at the cornerstone of your work here. When it comes to brotherhood, man to man, helping other men to rise, to settle their nervous system, to develop good habits and routines, what does that look like for you? Meaning, what have you seen work when it comes to men supporting other men in the implementation of, emotional intelligence, calling people out, calling people up? What does that look like, brother to brother?
So for me, it comes back to relationship. I think relationship is the single most important thing. From a place of relationship, if I'm operating from a place of love and not a place of fear, then in relationship, we can deal with, we can confront, we can go into the darkest, deepest places. And because I say so many of us, I speak for my generation. I'm 52, so your generation too, with fathers who came off the tail end of World War II and Vietnam and hard living, basically. Connecting with other men is so important because it gives you a container of strength. It goes back to that frequency. It's a different frequency that as men we all long for. We need it because it's nice to not always have to be the man. It's nice to not always have to be the one that carries everything. And when you're walking alongside someone else, it's nice to be able to share that energy in that space for a while. So that's a very important thing.
Who's been one of the best men in your life? Who do you admire, look up to, respect, and why?
I've had a lot of good men in my life, and truly the best man has been my father. He was, like I said, he was a Vietnam veteran. He worked in a rock quarry for 35 years. He came home covered in limestone. The man never complained. He'd get up at 4 o'clock every morning, go to work, come back, be dog tired, fall asleep on the couch with his boots still on, sitting under the air conditioner, and he never complained. Not a single time. He didn't drink, he didn't cheat, he didn't smoke. He did a lot of that stuff when he was younger, but he didn't do any of that. And he couldn't say, I love you. He rarely hugged. He whipped our asses. He was not emotionally available. He was present when he could be, but most of the time he wasn't present because he was too freaking tired. But the man gave me a model for hard work. He gave me a model for loving your family. He gave me a model for just being a man. He was quiet. He wasn't a mean man. He was quiet. Sometimes he felt like he was being mean to us, but people loved him. He was a man. And he was a man's man. And he was the quintessential. I could not have asked for a better father. God knew that was the man that I needed in my life because I was placed for adoption at birth. And God knew I needed that man. And now more than ever, as a dad, as someone who's committed to building a legacy for my family, I fall back on the blueprints that he provided for me more than anything else, because I can fill in all the emotional stuff. I can love on my kids. I can be affectionate. I can be emotionally present. I can tell them I love them. But he gave me that foundation of what it means to really be a man, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud of that. There's nothing like that. And, I've spent 30 years now working with people in pain. 30 years. My dad, when he was 57 years old, he got leukemia. From 57 to 63, he worked and he would drive himself. Sometimes he'd drive himself an hour, get chemotherapy, and drive himself home because it's just what he had to do. And then he'd go to work the next day. He retired at 63 and he died the next year. My mom and my dad raised my nephew from the time he was 2. My dad wanted my nephew to have his military benefits. So my dad was in the hospital. The judge and the social worker and the attorney came to the hospital so he could sign the papers for my son to become legal, for my nephew to become legally their son, so he'd be entitled to their military benefits. And then he died the next morning. The man willed himself to stay alive until he could sign those freaking papers. And there could never be another man that has had the impact in my life like he has had in my life. And I bring that to every family. All the whippings I had, all the shit I got into, all the trauma I've had, all of that. And I really, sometimes my mom, who's my biggest fan, she'll hear me. She said, "Did you have to tell that story? Did you really? Was it that bad?" Yeah, it was bad. It was bad. It was bad. But all of that went into making me who I am. Mm-hmm. So I can do the work that I've done for the last 30 years at a level that most people don't want to, can't do. God prepared me for that. And that was the battlefield I had to go through to be able to do it. And that man was a part of that training for who I am now and how I show up in the world. Thank you for asking.
Sort of let that sit for a second. Yeah. As you were sharing that, man, I was feeling like it was one of the most genuine honorings of a father that I've heard. Like a sober, accurate look. You're not pretending like he was something that he wasn't. You're honest about the parts that were missing or that that weren't there, or however you would phrase it. And yet there's this deep reverence for like, man, what I heard, what I felt in your energy was like, here's a man who did the best he could with what he had. And I think that is one of the most beautiful thoughts about humans is just going, that person's doing the best they can with what they have, with their tools, with their ancestral energies, with their circumstances, with whatever they've got. They're just doing the best they can with what they've got. 100. And I can think that, it feels like you embody that so deeply and so much reverence for this man. I think that's maybe one of the reasons that I feel so touched by how you honored him is I hope that my kids maybe see me the same way. Because I can see them in the future saying something like, yeah, my dad was like the leader of the front row dads and he did all this good shit, but he also was like fucking angry at times, like, and terrified the shit out of me at times. Yeah. I get to see my kids, having a sober look at me too. So thank you for that honesty about your dad. That's cool. Appreciate that. As somebody who is an advocate for and believes in adoption, right, and foster children, what would you say to the world, or to anybody that, whether they're considering it or not considering it or just want to understand it more? Yeah. What's your wish for humanity as it relates to adopted children and foster children?
I think, my wish is that people would realize and hold in honor that these kids come from pain. They come from loss. They come from pain that most of us will never, God willing, they'll never experience, and that people will understand that. And that pain doesn't just go away because you adopt some baby out of a traumatized place, or you take a kid out of foster care and you give them a nice home and food and clothes. The trauma doesn't go away, man. It's wired into them and it makes them scared. It makes them scared if people can realize that adopted and foster children at their core are fearful. They're fearful. They do not feel good enough. They feel like they are going to be abandoned, and that drives their behaviors. And if people can see that and honor it and give them a place to grieve and give them a place to be sad, because that behavior is just a manifestation of their pain. That's all it is. The behavior is a manifestation of their pain. So when they're having the behavior, it's the best they know to do. So when you can support them through the behavior and encourage their feelings, because the feeling is the path to the healing. You got to get over all these generational blueprints that tell you that kids can't be upset and they can't be angry and they can't yell and they can't cuss. It's nothing but freaking words. They're just words. That feeling that they are expressing is the energy that they're releasing to heal. So when you can get to a place and you can support them in having those feelings and really, and don't take it so personally, even though initially it is personal because it stresses you out, do your work and then realize that this child, this is a child of God, and God put this child in this world, and this child is a gift. Adopted and foster children are gifted. They are gifted. Many of these children are geniuses, but they have so much pain and so much fear, and then we compound it with so many of our own parental issues and teacher issues and pastor issues and extended family issues. We compound it. We never get to see the beauty for what they could have been or would have been if we could have just loved them. So if the world could hear that, man, that would be good enough for me. I'd be ready to go retire to my farm.
That's cool, man. Thank you for that. I appreciate that so much.
Thanks for asking.
I feel like that might be a good place for us to wrap.
Okay, man, I appreciate it.
I feel like that might be a good place. Yeah. Thank you so much for opening up, and I don't know that I've cried this much on a podcast recently. Yeah. Thank you for that gift.
Well, thank you for making it possible.
Yeah.
It's reciprocity. It's relationship. When two people can open up energy together, it just flows.
Yeah.
So thank you for making it possible.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much. Maybe to close it down and just give you the final word, is there, this community is filled with guys who want to be the best dads they can be before it's too late. It's kind of the feeling that I get both internally and from the men is like, I got a lot of priorities. Yeah. I care about my work mission. I want to make money for my family and be a provider, but I don't want to miss showing up at home. I don't want to be thinking about my business while I'm standing in the kitchen trying to connect with my kid. I do want to see them. I want to attune to them. They get it. They get that. Is there anything that you think we didn't talk about today that you want to say to those guys? That's your call to action, your wish for them, whatever it might be. But there's a lot of dads out there who just want to do it. I don't want to say the right way, but that's what it feels like to do it the right way.
Yeah, I just want to encourage any father to just know that you're powerful.
Yeah.
You're powerful. Just slow down and breathe and let your power just be what it is. And you don't have to be helpless to the past. You don't have to be a victim to the past. Just slow down and connect. And if I can walk alongside you, to walk alongside any other man who wants to go deeper and do more and just uncover some things. Maybe they've been walking with some anxieties and some sadness and some depression that they haven't been able to get out of. If I can walk alongside them, I'm happy to be able to do that. And so I just want to encourage them to realize their power.
Yeah. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you being here.
Thanks, John.
I hope people go check out your work, From Fear to Love, the book. million copies is no joke,
Yeah,
man. That's no joke. I wrote a book once that sold 160 copies, so I've got some work to do. But thank you, man. I appreciate you being here.
Thank
This
you,
is
brother.
a real blessing today. Thank you so much for this conversation.